Hi, Gordon Smith in Chile, Denmark. I don't know about you all, but I'm watching the end of this soccer game. There's just a couple minutes left, a minute and 15, in fact. They're in extra time. U.S. leading 1-0 over Iran. On today, England's up, Andrew? 3-0. Andrew Pindar saying over Wales. No surprise there. John Emmett saying good evening, good morning. He's in Bali, of all places, on vacay. Exotic vacay. Hello, David James. Good afternoon. Nice to chat with you in the last couple of days, David, across the bay, of course. The esteemed lawyer and great sailor from both St. Francis and San Francisco Yacht Clubs, Jonathan Frank. Greetings from Galveston. David Pricey, with whom I've been texting today from the CYCA in Sydney, where it's Wednesday morning. Welcome to all of you as we get this one, 569 off the dock.
3, 2, 1.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to show 569. As I said, Tuesday, the 29th of November, 2022. Still no Julia. We'll give you an update on her in a moment as the U.S. game is just winding down here. I've got it on the tube and a bit distracted by it. Congrats to the Brits who defeated Wales today at the same time. In what group is this? B, Bravo. And the U.S. looks like they're going to win this one. One last scoring opportunity here. No, they're more than 9 minutes in to the extra time. Is the ref going to call it or not? We'll see here. I got to watch this. Come on, everybody. Good eye from November-ish Plymouth, Michigan. Clark Chapin is saying, I don't seem to have any video, but it's a personal problem. Hope everybody else has got video. We'll keep going, but I do think this game is in hand. In fact, it's over. You can see here it is over. The U.S. are celebrating. Iran not so happy as that game is over. And welcome again to the show today. At the pre-start, we're again celebrating the Koi Vuosari Sailing Club in Helsinki in Finland. We've been using them in the pre-start. I hope we didn't do a show Friday because of our 4-day weekend here. I hope you all who were celebrating Thanksgiving, our 4-day USA Thanksgiving weekend, I hope you had a great weekend. We are thankful. I am thankful, and Julia too, for all the FOSI, our patrons, of course, and the FOSI, and all of you who watch the show. We do it for you. We wouldn't do it without you, and the continuing support we receive is very much appreciated. Speaking of Julia, I have some great news. She is being released. All of your good wishes and prayers and spirits and everything else. The great news is she should be back here at BSYC up in the Commodore's quarters. We hope by Friday, sometime soon, later this week, maybe over the weekend, upstairs at the Commodore's quarters. And with any luck, we'll get her down here at her table across, I don't need that white box, across the way from me. Over there, as you all know, where she sits as my co-host and dear friend and Commodore of the Beach Street Yacht Club here in Studio B. We hope that she will be back come Friday, at least back here from the convalescent room. She's doing well. I was over there, was it yesterday? Sunday, I guess. And good progress. Her foot's getting better. And they're, if she didn't get out of there, I know some of you were going to go Springer, Blake Middleton and others. We're threatening to go Springer. I'm also thankful to Chris Otorowski and Tim Murphy, who were with us on our show a week ago Tuesday. That show had a lot of views, a lot of people from the Cruising Cruising Club of America, CCA. I was going to say the Cruising Yacht Club of Australia, but that's not correct because we've been talking about the CYCA all morning with David Price and others, and we got a feature or two about all of that. But the Cruising Club of America, which celebrates this year their 100th anniversary, it was a delight to have Chris and Tim on the show. We very much appreciate to all of you the kind comments and good wishes. Their book, The Adventurous Use of the Sea, Formidable Stories of a Century of Sailing, from the CCA by Tim Murphy, who was on the show, and edited by Sheila McCurdy, our longtime friend. That is available both from Amazon.com and the CCA website. Good Christmas present for any of you who might be looking for something for the cruising sailor or the particular CCA member on your list. Now, speaking of the FIFA World Cup, this game has wrapped up. We understand the Brits have won, 3-0. The Americans have won 1-0. The U.S. did pretty well, looked pretty dominant in this game, more or less. It certainly was a lot more energy than in the game that, since we've done a show since last Tuesday, but when was this game? It was on Friday, was it? Yawn in the USA was one of the better, it was a tabloid headline in The Sun in the UK. England and USA, of course, played to a 0-0 tie, or as we would call it, a draw is the rest of what you would call it. Interesting, too, that here in the States, a lot of TV announcers call it, it's like grading on your fingernails on a chalkboard. They call it the FIFA. The FIFA World Cup. It's FIFA. Americans, please get with it. Of course, we know that only because we lived in Europe for so long. And Meg played soccer as a youth, and it was good fun to learn more about football. Football. But that was a yawner. For sure, not the most exciting game. I was texting with a lot of our Brit friends, Andrew Pindar, Andrew McGurban, and John Emmett and others who were also watching that game. But looks like now the U.S. and the Brits will go through, England, I should say. And Bravo Zulu to both of them. They'll be going through from Group B. And as we learned, sometimes a draw is as good as a win. Now, I also have to apologize because this was one of the headlines here in the U.S. Late goals send Iran to a 2-0 World Cup victory over Wales. The Wales with an H. In any event. Okay, so we've been watching this game today, Iran versus the USA. It is now over. I put the slide in case it was not over for some reason. Of course, Wales versus England. We know the results. Fritz Mueller asking, is it football or soccer? Well, we'll call it football in honor of everybody else. And we'll call this American Gridiron on Saturday. I'm a big fan and alum of the University of Michigan, who defeated our arch rival, arch nemesis, the Ohio State University. Julie Aaron's favorite school, and we had a pleasant, fun back and forth. I've been eating a lot of humble pie because I predicted on the show last Tuesday, as did just about everybody else, that at least on paper, Ohio State University looked to be the dominant power. Both teams went into that game undefeated, yada, yada. Michigan came out. It really blew them out in the second half. So I've been eating, as John Sangmeister said, humble pie ever since that game on Saturday. My friends and family in Michigan, Clark Chapin, I'm sorry, my mother, Jan Davis, and everyone else who've been giving me a ration ever since that game on Saturday. But I wasn't the only one. All of these esteemed announcers that were covering it, when they do the pregame shows, all of them but the Michigan guy, Charles, what's his name, Woodson, he was the only one who predicted Michigan. And this guy Brady, in fact, got the score right, or almost got it right, but he got the wrong team winning there in the lower left corner. So I'm eating humble pie. In fact, it's so much so that Gordon Smith tells me that there's a pizzeria in Denmark. He sent this along this morning. Thank you, Gordon. There's a pizzeria in a town in Denmark called Humble Denmark. Humble. And maybe if I'm in Denmark next time, Gordon will take me there. We'll have some humble pizza pie. Oh, dear. Some other news, since we haven't done a show in a week, and a lot of you wrote about this. There was a horrific fire on Sunday in Mystic, Connecticut, where Mystic Seaport is, the famous museum. And it was at a marina called Mystic Seaport Marine. There in Connecticut on the just east of where Steve Adkins is, between between New York and Newport, Rhode Island, New York, and Boston. And it was not, however, at the seaport. It was at a place called Seaport Marine, just to about a mile down the city front. Mystic Seaport Museum was not impacted. They sent a note saying Mystic Seaport Museum has received several messages with concern that the museum was the site of the fire. The museum and the museum shipyard were not impacted by the fire in any way. The location of the fire was approximately 1 mile from the museum. As a community, let us all unite to support our friends and neighbors at Seaport Marine as they overcome this tragedy. So a lot of you wrote to me. I put it on my Facebook page, and any of you who are still concerned, that is the official word from Mystic Seaport Museum. Now, out where my brother's way in Hawaii, and a lot of you have friends and family in Hawaii, a lot of you have visited, there was this dormant volcano, which has been dormant for some 38 years. Mauna erupted over the weekend, Sunday morning, and it's so far it's not it's on the Big Island. It's not in any way threatening life because they've known about this for obviously for a long time. It's erupted before, some 4 decades ago, but it has the potential to be a major, including sending all sorts of stuff up into the atmosphere. So we shall see. We'll keep an eye on that. Got a lot of comments rolling in here. John Lambert, hi John, Lamberts Van Buren in the Netherlands. Can we have a poll among the Fozy just to confirm we all like sailing way more than football? I guess whether the soccer or American gridiron. Yes, indeed. What's that? Stingray, I'm not sure what that's all about. Julie Aaron's not my favorite. I am a Missouri fan, a Show Me State fan. I went to school in Columbia, Missouri, home of the Missouri Tigers, also Notre Dame. Big 8 is a tough conference, too. Yes, indeed, it is. Mary Jude Samansky, Fire and Mystic, thank you for clarifying that. Good. Replying to Stingray, he's too polite to say. All 5 of the Clark Chapin. All 5 of the sports writers for the Detroit Free Press predicted an OSU victory, so you weren't alone. Well, I wasn't, I've been following both teams. I wasn't just reading what the other cognoscenti and the pundits were saying. But I really, truly thought that in the last couple games that Ohio State looked dominant. And Michigan also was missing this guy Corum, who's their number one, and was a candidate, maybe still is a candidate for what we call the Heisman Trophy in the U.S., which is the top college football player. But I digress, as usual. John Emmett, head over to Sailing Illustrated page to get all the comments, likes, and shares in one place. Yeah, the Sailing Illustrated page, I think my Facebook page as well. Otherwise, if you're on the YouTube channel, you won't see all the comments. Thanks for that, John. Ted Ryman, hi from Cape Town in South Africa, the Republic of. Jonathan Frank, how about the Aggies stomping on LSU? Indeed, Jonathan Frank. By the way, Jonathan, I didn't put it in the show, but you talk about fires and hurricanes and volcanoes. In Houston, Texas, where Jonathan Frank and Barbara live, they have a water problem down there, and they've had to go on boiled water. Is that still going on, Jonathan, or is your water now safe to drink again? I texted him over the weekend, and he said, yeah, we're having to worry about our water. Yeah, Sarah Morgan commenting on my shirt. Yeah, Sarah, you'll know why in a moment, why I'm wearing this shirt today. James Frederick Bland, oh, how I hate Ohio State. Who was the Prince of Wales rooting for? Stingray wants to know in that England-Wales football game, the footy game. Good afternoon from cool and breezy Halifax and on Neil Collingridge. Yep. What was the score? 3-0? Gordon Smith saying, thanks. The CC at Cruising Club of America story was very interesting indeed. And what else? Maybe Julia can remote in. Oh, I think when Julia's back here, if she gets back this weekend, and upstairs and gets settled in, I fully expect we'll have her down here at her chair in Studio B one way or another come next Tuesday. I certainly hope so. Finally, in this pre-start section, I just want to say thanks to all of you. And the theme of today's show really is it's show number 569, but also I did turn finally 69. Finally, as Andy Rose says, it's 39 with 30 years of experience. But I always round off. I've been thinking that I was 70, so I was pleasantly surprised on Thanksgiving Day to learn I was only 69. And indeed, thank you very much for the kind birthday wishes. And I can assert now firsthand, one knows firsthand that 69 is fine. No pun intended. If you'll support us on Patreon, this show today brought to you by our patrons on patreon.com/join/Sailing Illustrated as we get into today's show. The reason I am wearing this shirt is because a dear friend with whom I have spent a lot of time over the last 4 decades, we've been campmates up at Tinsley Island at the Stag Cruise on the Ravelli Peatman houseboat. very sad to report that Jim DeWitt, many of you know or at least know of, superb sailor, sailmaker, and artist, a true Renaissance man. He passed away about a week ago, and we're going to celebrate his life here today with a bit of a tribute. He started out as a sailor and became a sailmaker when he was trying to save some money as a kid. But the official obit, so here's an excerpt. James Hardin DeWitt died November 19th under the care of hospice at his home in Point Richmond, California, which is up here in the North Bay. He was 92 years old. Jim was born in Oakland in the East Bay here in 1930, so he was 92 years old. At age 7, he drew pictures of sailboats while watching his father build a 19-foot sloop in the family's backyard. Then at age 19, he purchased materials and built his own small boat in El Toro. Wow, number 216. And El Toro is like an Optimus. And began racing it on Lake Merritt over there in Oakland. This launched Jim's remarkable and highly unique career. He became internationally known both as a fine artist who specialized in action-packed, spirited, and accurate, I should say, colorful portraiture of racing yachts, and also as one of the most successful yacht racers from San Francisco Bay, indeed in the country. He won the Mallory Cup famously back in the 60s, which was then really our top U.S. men's championship, run in the day by North American Yacht Racing Union, now today U.S. Sailing. And he took as his crew a famously good female sailor, a woman who sailed with him first. And it was okay for women to sail as crew, but not as skippers in that particular event. They had their own event called the Adams Cup, and he sailed and won and brought the trophy back here to the Bay and won lots of other things, the Masters Championship and various other things. But best known for his painting, including, I thought, David Price, you would enjoy this, because when the Ideens, the Aussie 18s, were here, he, of course, painted those boats like he did a lot of the America's Cup boats as well. This Dennis Conner's Stars and Stripes that I don't think Stars and Stripes ever sailed here in the Bay, but certainly famously back in the 87 Cup, I think he took a picture and painted from a picture, Stars and Stripes. Then when the Cup was here, this is the 2000, the World's here, the World Cup regattas, what do we call them? In, tell me when, 2012 that would be. You recognize one of the San Francisco city front there in the background, and of course the bridge. I have this painting here in the Beach Street Yacht Club, in fact, and I have a litho of this one, another one from his Cup days. And you probably know that the painting behind me obviously is a DeWitt. You can see his name. I'm covering it up. You can see his name here in the corner. We're very proud to have this. This is I guess obviously it's the Golden Gate Bridge, but it's J105s, I guess, in the foreground of that, if I get out of the way, of that painting. And you may remember, too, that at times I have had behind me the Trimaran. I have the original of that. That's in the America's Cup Lounge here at the Beach Street Yacht Club, for those of you who've been here. It's the painting that he did for Golden Gate Yacht Club, which then was on loan to Golden Gate, and then he asked me to it be given to me after Golden Gate took the Cup to Bermuda. He was not amused by that, as were a lot of us. This from the Louis Vuitton Cup here, the AC-72s in the 2013 Cup. And on and on and on. He did a lot of famously cool and good paintings, particularly sailboats. But did you know that he also painted dogs? Why? Anybody know? I won't wait. You probably can put them in the comments and I'll get there. James Frederick Bland's super nice work. Boats, cars, and portraits are very tough to do because of the accuracy needed. Yeah, he painted dogs as well. Here's one of his more famous dog paintings. You know who that is? Oprah Winfrey and her family. It was the name of that painting that he did. And I think he probably did it on spec, hoping that she would buy it and that others would buy it. But this from a friend who, a regular at Tinsley, it's a Stag Cruise. He said, I remember this. This is a thank David Clark, I should say, who's a member of Newport Harbor Yacht Club. I think a past Commodore at Newport Harbor Yacht Club and a longtime friend. And he said, yes, I remember being with all of you. This was on an email thread going around in the last few days after the news of Jim's death got around. I remember being with all of you and Jim at Tinsley, and Jim was wearing a bolo tie with that slide piece and a painting of a dog on it, like the one I just showed you. I asked him if he was still painting boats. His response was something like, quote, no, I mostly do paintings of dogs. The money is in the dogs. Everybody wants a painting of their dog. And I remember him saying, in fact, I have a bolo dog, a bolo tie with a dog thing, clasp or closure from Jim as well. I should have found it and put it on here. It's out also here on the memorabilia bookcase in the America's Cup Lounge. So that was a funny note. Thanks, David Clark, for letting me use that. This is Jim with his spouse, Sally, who's another wonderful gal. Funny, both of them, wonderful folks. And Jim leaves Sally and a bunch of kids, including Pam, who we know quite well. And Bravo Zulu to them, and a sad day, but he was a great figure, Renaissance man, as I said, sailmaker, and famously good artist. Jim DeWitt, Richmond Yacht Club, and also St. Francis Yacht Club, 1930 to 22. May he rest in peace. And hence this shirt, because as I said, I wore this, I think maybe the last Stack Cruise he attended, which was maybe pre-COVID, 2019. I think this is 2019 shirt. I think it was. So I grabbed that in his memory. We're to the starting line, and we use, as usual, hello, Peter Voiling Sailor. Peter Stevenson has joined us. Stingray saying he painted dogs because of the deed of gift. No, not really. Super nice work, boats, cars, and portrait. Yeah, we mentioned that. This was another comment. Amazing art, my mother said. Janice F. Davis, love his paintings. Jonathan Frank, who is also a painter, saying, yeah, that's awesome work. And the prices probably did just go up. That's true. Okay, we're to the starting line, and with that, we like to get into John Emmett's report, which is rather exotic. I didn't know. After all that long stint and a whole long summer of coaching and hard work, John had gone off on a bit of a vacay to Bali. Have a look.
Hi, Tom, Julia, and all the Fozy. Despite appearances, I'm not actually at a sailing venue. I'm on holiday in Bali. But I thought I'd still take you for a walk and a talk. In fact, going to try and do the walk down the steps and carry on the conversation we were having about health, fitness and diet, and just to give some more general principles, although I think I've probably been ignoring most of that stuff this week. The first thing is that the quality of the fuel you put in your body is very important. So if you think about it, very high powerful vehicles, whatever, are very fuel dependent. So if you have a rocket, you literally need rocket fuel, or Formula One car, you need very high quality fuel to go into that. Whereas, a more mundane car or diesel car, you wouldn't notice it. And in fact, probably the most, the least refined fuel is the heavy diesel, which, well, we won't get into that because they're horrible, horrible polluting, but also very, very low efficiency fuels. So yeah, if you really push your engine, you have a Formula One engine, you do need that high quality fuel. So that's my analogy there. And a simple thing to think about for me is often just how close a food source is to its origin. Is it a bit of meat straight off the cow, or is it a highly processed burger with a huge amount of additives in it? Does it look like the fruit or vegetable that it originally came from, or has it been processed within an inch of its life? And the ingredient list is probably a good telltale for me. The less ingredients, the better. I mean, there is a time for those simple sugars, etc., during exercise, but just in terms of health, very good idea to think about. So I'll just try not to fall down the stairs. And then the diet in terms of macronutrients, it really depends who you are. Because you can eat healthily in lots of ways, but for example, if above normal life activity, you're a bodybuilder and trying to do, lots of weights and gain as much muscle as possible. Probably a bit of noise here. In the background, people are having their afternoon tea. If you're a bodybuilder, you will increase your protein intake. If you're doing a lot of high aerobic activity, endurance type sport, which I think is most similar to what we do, and you have that energy requirement, you definitely need to increase your carbohydrates. And actually, if you're an ultra endurance athlete and you're doing very, very long, low intensity runs, you probably would have a high fat diet, because that's what you can take with you. Because calories wise, you get twice as many calories for the weight you're carrying around. So your diet will obviously make a difference depending what you're doing. You may have noticed I've got the new lapel mic, complete with dead kitten, but I don't think there's that much wind now. In fact, I think the reason I got a cheap holiday is we're just getting into the sailing season. So I'm in Bali, which is Indonesia. I think you might be able to see, you've got the flag in the background there, not quite sure if you can see that, but I got it confused with the Polish flag because this is my holiday after the Europeans. Well, I said I think it's very important for sailors to have a break, to remain fresh and always keen to take the covers off the boats, but it's exactly the same for the coaches. We need to remain fresh, and that's not only physically fresh but mentally fresh. So one of the things I'm trying to do now, because I've been absolutely plagued with injury this year, mainly due to possibly having too much tequila at one point, but to do a lot of stretching, and it's a part of training recovery we don't talk about a lot, and unfortunately it's possibly one of the most important things for preventing injury and having full range of movement, but it's also what we tend to do last in our workout. So if we're in a hurry, it's the thing we don't do. So I'm here doing, quite a lot of yoga, quite a lot of stretching, and it takes time, and we're all busy people. And unfortunately, those things which take a lot of time, which are not urgent, often get delayed. I mean, the gravity stretches, you're talking about 3 to 5 minute holds, which is also very uncomfortable when you're injured. So it's now I have this sort of holiday environment. I think I can finally do it, although I must admit when the Black Friday sales came on, it was very hard to not book flights and accommodation and things for next season, which is of course when the Olympic qualifiers start. So real life goes on. The only sad thing I say, you can obviously work out I am filming myself. In fact, I'm going to turn around so I don't get wet feet. I am here on my own because of the situation in China. So where we started off at the beginning of the walk is actually a beautiful place where they do romantic dinners right on the roof of the hotel overlooking the beach. And they have a whole series of couples massage packages, and they run new flower petal filled baths and all the rest of it. This is a bit of a pain. They keep on asking if I'm on my own, but the COVID situation in China is you realise is not very good, and as I predicted, I think they're going to be in for a tough winter. And the only thing you probably noticed is there's a supply of the iPhone 14 or whatever the latest one is a bit delayed, or they're hard to get hold of because of what's happening in the factory. But it's almost unheard of for these protests in Shanghai going on due to the COVID zero policy. And of course it's not reported in China, but that's another story. So yeah, long story short, we worked out for Lily to come here from China. She would spend more time in quarantine than she would do on holiday with me. So it was a tough call. So here I am on my own. But yeah, recharging my batteries and making the best of the situation, and hopefully doing lots of healing. I'm going to be very keen for next sailing block, which is a really big one in Villamora, pretty much spending 2 months there. So I'll try and report to you live. Not sure if I'm going to make the show because it's pretty difficult with the travelling at the moment, not to mention the time difference. But see how it goes, and any more questions about health and fitness, I'm really happy to answer. You probably realised it's one of my my key things, and it's actually often both physical and mental fitness the biggest barrier you get to sporting performance. And perhaps as sailors, in terms of sports science, we are less developed than other sports. When I was at Loughborough, that's something I really noticed. So I'm going to sign off now, and I may go and get a cocktail or 3. Bye.
A cocktail or 3? Where's that say? Happy hour? Oh, we got to go look at that finals. Happy hour, 50% of a cocktail. Yeah, 5 to 7. Typical. Nice report again, John. Thank you very much. He's on watching, I think, in the comments. If I thought I saw Make It 4, Baton Rouge is saying. But I'm pretty sure John is on. He's on the plane. He said something that he's on a Qatar Airways. Is it Qatar or Qatar, you all? Qatar Airways, 961 at the moment, landing in Doha in a few hours. So he's headed there. John, are you going to stay in Doha and watch some of these games, or are you just transiting? Are you just transferring through and on your way home? Regardless, that's John Emmett Sailing. Get to the front of the fleet. We appreciate his report. How many other shows, sailing or otherwise, you get live to tape anyway, reports from exotic places like Bali and Hyères and all the other places that John and some of our other foes he take us to or bring us reports from? So from where they issue what? I'm not even going to try to get into the grammar. In any event, we get on to Happy Tuesday. And yes, I can personally attest that 69, you may think I'm even more crotonic than usual, but 69 is just fine. I got a nice video, a wrap-up video of all the winners in the big race that we've been covering from Saint Malo down to Guadeloupe, Route de Rhum, destination Guadeloupe. And here is a nice video recap of the winners of all, what is it, six classes.
Caudrelier has won the 12th edition of the Route de Rhum in the all-team class in the dead of the Guadeloupe night.
9h, 2 minutes, 25 secondes UTC.
But it's not just a solo victory.
It's
It's not the victory of one sailor today, it's the victory of a whole team. It's really the story of the Gitana team. This race was won together. The skipper beat Francis Joyon's 2018 record by over 18 hours. With his name on the Route de Rhum trophy, Caudrelier enters ocean racing legend. A few hours later, Francois Gabart took second for the second time running. Owen Leroux does the double. Route de Rhum winner in 2014, the skipper of Coesio crossed the finish line first this morning after a fierce battle with Quentin Vlaminck. Earlier that night, only 25 seconds separated the two sailors at the Basse-Terre mark.
À aucun moment j'ai douté.
At no time did I have any doubts. I don't know, it was in me. Every bit of me was so motivated and determined. "19 minutes later, Vlaminck finished in second place. The smile, the pride, the emotion. In the middle of the Caribbean night and fueled by victory after 11 days of fierce racing, Thomas Rouillon won the IMOCA class.
Je suis ému évidemment.
I am emotional, of course. The Route de Rhum is a cornerstone of ocean racing and sport.
De la course au large, du sport. Là on avait une classe IMOCA.
We started with an IMOCA class of 36 boats and some great sailors,
Sacré marin.
and we beat them. It was a second Route de Rhum victory for the skipper from Dunkirk after winning it in a Class 40 10 years ago. 2 hours later, Charlie Dalin took second place. Having led the race 62% of the time, he was obviously disappointed. I've participated in the 3 great solo classics and only ever come second. I'm becoming a bit of a bridesmaid. On November the 9th, Johan Richomme aboard Paprec Arkea crossed the start line early. It cost him a 4-hour penalty, but the race's defending champion wasn't the sort to give up. On November 23rd, Richomme completed a remarkable comeback to cross the finish line in first place and claim his second successive Route de Rhum victory in a Class 40. I really thought that the double was very hard to achieve. You have to combine so many ingredients, so many little details to achieve it. I'm really proud to have won it because I think that the field was even tougher than 4 years ago.
Encore plus relevé qu'il y a 4 ans.
It was a race full of twists and turns, but in the end the Rhum multi-class was won by Loïc Escoffier. After Gilles Boukenhou capsized and Roland Jourdain got a penalty, the amateur from Saint-Malo came back to take the victory in Guadeloupe. He follows in the footsteps of his brother Kevin and father Franck-Yves Escoffier.
Papa en a 3. Papa 3.
Dad has 3. Dad has 3 Route de Rhums. I have 1, so that makes 4 Route de Rhum. So I don't have his record or Kevin's record, far from it, nor their overall abilities as sailors. But in this case, I just went for it.
Ce que je veux dire, c'est qu'il faut là, il a fallu y aller.
The Rhum mono class was won by Jean-Pierre Dick, who came back from a difficult start and then a dangerous rescue of Bruc Maisonneuve.
Je suis très fier de... Voilà, pour moi,
I'm very proud. For me, this run was important because I haven't won a major single-handed ocean race, and now I have. People said I was a double-handed specialist, but I've shown that I can also do well single-handed.
Okay, another nice video, nice wrap-up video, and I think that was a good one to play just to give a wrap-up to all of that. And I'm going to be careful, David James, not to end a sentence with a preposition. It's something up with which I will not put. That David James, the cunning linguist, the lawyer, and the Stanfordite, went to Stanford University, as did Julia. They're very erudite, very good. And my mother's also would think poorly of me if I ended too many sentences in prepositions. Try not to do that. But before we totally wrap it up, I think we should see this video from Pip Hare, whom we've been following in this edition, the 12th edition of the Route de Rhum. And she's already, I say already, I guess it's not a surprise, but I thought she might sit there and relax for a little bit. But no, there's work to be done. She's already on her way home. Have a look on Medallia.
We are 2 days north of the Caribbean, and it's one of the best times of day. Sunrise, just incredible. The light out here is always amazing, and the change from day to night and night to day is spectacular. We've sailed through the last 24 hours, there was hardly any wind at all, so it was quite slow going, but we don't have enough diesel on board to motor through that stuff, so we had to kind of plug away. We're moving again now, which is nice. I'm about to make a cup of tea just to kind of complete one morning. It's brilliant, isn't it? I think it's probably going to be about another 2 weeks before we get back to the UK. And we've got some quite difficult weather to negotiate on the way. So I'm not 100% sure what route we're taking yet. We're just kind of taking it steady, day by day, making sure we get us and the boat back in good order. We've had a few of you asking about when the boat's going to be back in Poole, and it makes me, I don't know, really proud to think that, you know, some of you want to come and welcome the boat back in and me back in, and so thank you for that. But I'm afraid it's going to be a little while before we're back in Poole. We've got a really busy winter planned. So those of you who follow regularly will know that we're actually changing to big foils at the first half of next year. And that work is going to be done at Carrington's in Hyde. And in order to get that work done as started as soon as possible, we're going to go straight there via Gosport. So we'll be arriving in the UK, going straight to Gosport, and there we're going to take the mast out and the keel off and the existing foils out. And then after that, the boat will be moved to Hythe, just motored across the Solent or maybe towed without the mast and without the keel. And then it will come out of the water for about 4 months of work to fit the big foils. So I'm afraid we won't be back in Poole until maybe the end of May or the beginning of June next year. But when we do come back, it will be with big foils, so it's definitely going to be worth coming down to the quay and taking a look.
Well, she can talk as well, and I think it's interesting. I know you're all paying attention to the videos because the comments all but stop when the videos are up. One of our favorite sailors anywhere, in any race, offshore, inshore, otherwise, Pip Hare, of course. And thanks to her for her videos. Her channel's been great, and I always go there first to look to see what she has uploaded because they're all interesting, they're all informative, and we appreciate them very much. Steve Gruber, yes, I have to talk to my graphics department. He's saying when I did the tribute to the late, great Jimmy DeWitt, he said 1930 to 1922. Obviously, I meant 2022. And he said he was a time traveler as well as an amazing artist. Yes, he was a time traveler, too. He was all those things. Jimmy DeWitt, fantastic human being and long time dear friend. Let's get to the history, this day in history, the 29th of November, also sailing related. It is sailing related. What happened on this date? In 1972, here's your first clue. Anybody recognize that beautiful yacht? Winner of the, I think, 1983 Transpac, roundabout. You recognize this gentleman? I can hear you, some of you, madly Googling away. Had nothing to do with the yacht per se, and all to do with the gentleman. That is Nolan Bushnell, here of the USA, and his Ron Holland designed 67-footer Charlie, which I'm pretty sure it was built, I think, in 83 and won the 83 Transpac, among many other races. And you know that Stan Honey also had a hand in that, as did a few other famous sailors, but even Stan Honey was part of that. And what did Mr. Bushnell do on this day in history? 50 years ago today. The co-founder of Atari, Nolan Bushnell, released Pong, the first commercially successful video game in Andy Capp's Tavern in Sunnyvale, down on the peninsula south of us here, in Sunnyvale, California. 50 years ago today. Hard to believe. Nolan Bushnell. I've met him, but really don't know him. As I'm sure probably any number of you do. Famously good sailor. I'm not sure he's too active now, but he was in the day. This brings us to a Bravo Zulu. We go down under for this one. And I'm so proud of these kids. I've gotten to know three of them by now. And the CYCA, the Cruising Yacht Club of Australia, has just completed the Belay International Youth Match Racing Championship. It was won by Cole Tapper and his crew. We'll introduce the crew to you in a moment. But here is a very nice video released by the CYCA and Belay just today.
Yeah, we're so happy. We had a really great day today. Put away some tough races, and we're really just like happy to be out there and competing again. Thanks to Bolle for putting on the event, and thanks to everyone else like that was racing. You know, all the competitors put up really good races, and we really enjoyed like the technical battle today in a bit more of a stable sea breeze rather than what we had over the last couple of days. So as a team, we're really happy. The standard of sailing's been really good. At the start of the regatta, there was a few bigger gaps between the boats because of the conditions, but today was a classic Sydney sea breeze on a sunny day, so it was really good to have some really tight racing, and you know, we fought every race down to the very last leg, which was good. We got the World Match Racing Tour final coming up, so this was a really good training opportunity for us, and we had some of the members of the team my brother was on who will be staying with us for that regatta, so we're really excited and just take away everything we learned here and take it to that regatta.
I agree, Ed Worley, because not only is it a nice video, but look, they put the final results, Cole and Will, John, and then the results of all the competitors all into this video. And bravo Zulu to the CYCA and their sponsor, Bolle. I assume Bolle is the sunglasses company, right? You can read all about it on cyca.com.au.youth. Great coverage on the website. What a terrific club the CYCA is. Bravo Zulu to them. The only minor nitpick I can say is that I had to look all over to find the names of Cole Tapper's crew. I know Cole in the middle, and the one to Cole's right is his brother Finn. I know them from the Gov Cup. But with the help this morning of David Price, back and forth, who was up as usual bright and early down in Sydney, he confirmed that the guy on the left is Hugo Stoner, Nathan Gullickson, then Cole in the middle, Finn to the right of Cole as we look at it here, and Ben Crayford, is it? Crayford, I guess. Terrific crew. They beat some really good teams in that regatta. We followed that regatta because John Sangmeister's son, Peter, was sailing in that, crewing for a guy who's going to school down there. Someone will remind me, who's an American who's from Balboa Yacht Club. I'll think of his name in a minute. And a good crop of kids from the Royal New Zealand and from the Royal Freshwater Bay out in Perth and so on. But bravo Zulu to these kids. Terrific job. And bravo Zulu to the CYCA for the coverage that they provided. Finally, thanks to David Price for helping me confirm the names of the kids, because I couldn't. Again, the Finn class does it, and Robert Deves, who also does the PR for the 5.5 meter class, and one or two others. Please put the names of the sailors on a picture with the faces so we know who they are, so that we can credit it. And I don't have to bug David Price at dark 30 in the morning in Sydney to get the names right. Well, we appreciate that, Pricey, and what a good job. What else here? The American Cup boat race, as Julia does not like me to call it. We've got some news on the America's Cup AC37 Cup date. We told you not too long ago, I guess on Tuesday's show last week, about the AC40, aka the LEQ12, meaning length equal to or less than 12 meters, that these training boats and the one designs are called. And for those of you wondering what LEQ12 means, well, I just told you that Dan Bernasconi, the ETNZ design team, in fact, their chief designer, good guy, we got to get him back on the show. LEQ12 means any yacht used for development or training that is less than or equal to 12 meters of LOA. It is defined in Rule 11.92 of the technical regs. Big deal. Yeah, John Emmett saying that Robert Deves also does the OKs. Thank you for that. We go on here, and as you know, the boat did a big nosedive and fractured the bow, and this is a series-produced boat up in China, and a couple others have already been built, so they're going to have to go back and retrofit.
We were sailing out, into some waves and really pushing things to the upper end of the spectrum. But yeah, we had obviously a pretty good crash down the back of a wave.
A decent structural failure in the bow area. Not extreme conditions, quite big waves, but big stuff probably compressed the deck, which is buckled, and then as the boat's rounded up, it's taken side force, which has got compression into the starboard side. That's very speculative at the moment, but that's how it looks just when you physically look at the boat and knowing, you know, how far under the boat went and the stuff. So the boat's got to be able to do that sort of thing, because even an automatic pilot, sometimes things can go wrong. So yeah, it is a structural failure which needs to be remedied and more strength put into that area.
One of the really pleasing things today was just about how we've managed to get the boat back here in reasonable time without any further damage. I think the whole team out on the water did an amazing job.
It couldn't have been better, actually. And as soon as we got into the smooth water, felt the boat was quite safe up onto the foils and home, and well, I think it was textbook recovery. And you'd expect that from the guys. Curly's running that, and everybody responded. The comms stayed on. In that respect, couldn't be better.
Now, there have been a lot of accidents. These boats are a cutting edge thing. All these America's Cup boats are. So I'm not personally not too exercised about all this, but the implications downstream for some of the other teams might be. Again, we showed you that video on last Tuesday show, and now here's an update, because they very quickly, as they've had to, get on to the problem, solved it, and here's their solution.
Part of our job as structural engineers is to estimate the loads that these yachts are going to see when they're sailing. That's normal sailing conditions, but also crash events like what we saw this week is certainly something that we knew was going to happen, and we designed for it. What made this event particularly bad for the yacht and really energetic was the combination of the longitudinal accelerations as we stuff into the water and the lateral accelerations. So as we lost our rudder, the boat actually spun around its foil and jibed as it was crashing. So we had almost equal magnitude accelerations in the longitudinal direction and in the lateral direction. And that was like nothing we had seen before on either our 75 scale or 40-foot scale yachts. Next steps for us, there's really two things happening in parallel. So the first one is dynamic simulation to get a better handle for what pressures the panels of the hull and deck were seeing during that event. In parallel with that, we are designing, I guess you could call it an upgrade kit for the AC40. That'll involve some new internal structure to be installed into the bow area of obviously our boat and all the other AC40 boats, so that it'll be able to withstand a similar event without experiencing damage.
Okay, well, bravo Zulu to them for getting the video out, giving a full and I thought quite clear, concise explanation of what they're going to do and why. It's not the end of the world. There was a bow compartment up there that was secured, so the boat wasn't going to sink with that bow shearing off. I thought it was interesting. It wasn't just the crash; it was also the twist that caused the bow to shear off. Bill Wingrove saying it's fixed. Looks like it will push the failure point forward. Well, we'll see. Tomorrow, the AC-37 dates will be announced. Yes, Daniel Grun, thank you. In theory, that is the case. We're waiting for tomorrow, November 30th, in the protocol. We'll see if they get delayed, but we know where it's going to be. At least we think we do, meaning Barcelona. But the actual dates and the series, we'll see. Because, this French entry that everybody's talking about, it's not going to happen. I've been telling you it's not going to happen, right? Not going to happen. By the way, while we're talking about things that are not going to happen, I'll leave the ETNZ logo. It's interesting new logo, too. It looks it's the fern, obviously, which is their sporting national symbol, or ace national symbol, but it all looks a bit like a back of a dinosaur to me. No, I don't say that because I think they're any kind of dinosaur team. They do more with very forward thinking, and I give them full marks. But I digress. You remember the Star Sailors League, the SSL Gold Cup that was supposed to be going on right about now in Bahrain? Well, it very quietly got canceled, and they're now saying it's going to happen next year, and they're putting the venue out to bid once again. Either Bahrain pulled out, or the Swiss gentleman who was backing it pulled back, or some other things happened. I think there may have been some contractual issues, so one hears, with Bahrain. And a couple of you have, with whom I've been talking, I won't name names, are giving me some background in due course on all that. But the Star Sailors League, the Gold Cup, is not happening, at least not this year. Here's something else now that looks like it might happen.
Now that we've sort of flicked the switch and we're looking at more summary conditions, It's all the strength now is in the south component.
Sounds really good. So at least there's some breeze on the horizon. It's the most positive thing out of it all, and it's probably getting pretty dry too, which is really good.
Last summer was exceptionally wet. Both November last year and January this year were the wettest months ever recorded, and that put a lot of water into the lake. And then it's been quite cloudy and wet for most of this year. And so the water has never really been allowed to evaporate. As the troughs and fronts move from west to east across Australia, they become more and more enhanced with tropical moisture. But things will improve. The Indian Ocean is cooling. The eastern half of the Indian Ocean that feeds moisture into Australia is cooling. The La Nina is expected to ease. That's the warm water over the Western Pacific. That's off Queensland and the Coral Sea. So you take both those tropical feeds of moisture into Australia and they will be decreasing. Certainly been a change. It's almost like someone flicked a switch. We've gone into a drier mode, certainly, than what we've been seeing. So there's been a change.
I'd have to probably go up just to have a look at the lake and then make a final call. No, nice mate. I'll catch up with you over the next couple of days or so, and we'll keep going. Good on you.
Okay, so that's the latest on that land speed project. That is, yes, Ed Worley's saying is that clouds. That's Roger Badham, the famous Australian meteorologist, one of the best in the sport, if not the best. I've done a campaign or two with him, and he is top notch. He's absolutely terrific, AKA clouds, because he's one of these guys who, like a lot of good sailors, and to say nothing, a meteorologist can look up at the clouds and make some pretty awesome observations, if not predictions. So that's the latest that's drying out. Let me back that up. Now here's the latest from Luna Rossa Prata Pirelli. They were not supposed to get back on the water till the middle of this week, but on Sunday they got their rig. Remember, they dropped their rig, and they got it back in the boat, and they sailed yesterday.
So I'm Gwenole Bernard, and I'm working, looking after all the software and control system on the rig of the SE75.
It felt good to see Luna Rossa finally sailing again after a couple of weeks. Can you tell us about how big the damage on the mast was?
Yeah, I guess as you could see in the picture, like the head of the mast was quite damaged, and like the top part. Was mainly the area that we had to work during those 3 weeks onshore, no? So yes, the head was quite damaged, but at the end, we came with a solid plan and a good team effort that bring us sailing today. So was damaged, but not so bad, because at the end we managed to fix it now, and the guys on the short team did a really impressive job now, working days and nights to bring the mast up to shape, and it was quite nice today to see the mast up looking like before.
So could you make any improvement on the mast specifically, or?
For sure we use this downtime to implement things now, because we had a tight schedule, and we had some modifications that were planned before what happened on the mast. So we really made most of this downtime to implement new things on the rig and on the boat. So it was a good effort, and again, it was funny to see, for sure the mast department was busy, but every other department were really, really busy as well, putting all those new modifications together.
So, considering the LQ12, what would you say are the advantages and disadvantages considering big rig of the AC75 and a small prototype, anything specifically?
Yeah, advantages is for sure loads are a bit easier to deal with. So if you want to implement a new system, it's a bit less complicated, because you are dealing with less load, and physical constraints are maybe a bit different. So on this purpose is nice, and I think it's quite flexible to do a modification. I guess it's not a single day that we are not trying a new thing, even a small detail. So they're quite accessible, but as well a big part of our design now, designing this LQ12, was to make sure we can learn stuff for the SE75. So we put a lot of effort trying to match the problem as well we can meet with the big boat. So trying to stay in the reality of what will be the class rule and the problem linked to this SE75 mast.
And the famous logo. Okay, it's an interesting update. Did I say they got on the water yesterday? They actually they got on the water Sunday. I'm pretty sure that's when it was. So they're going well. Gordon Smith is agreeing, and I think they are making pretty good progress. I certainly don't rate them at the top. I still think Alinghi's going to be the best. Sir Ben is out towing around. I didn't want to run the video, but they're out towing what they now call the Silver Arrow. Their 40-footer is being called Silver Arrow, as you probably know. That is in a reference to the Mercedes, whose cars in the classic era of Formula One were called Silver Arrows. And of course, Ineos and Mercedes are tied up in F1 now. And Ed Worley is commenting that millions of dollars spent on boats that will never sail a race. Well, yeah, exactly. Daniel Grun, who's normally a big Ben Ainsley supporter. Interesting. Ineos is such a weak team, Ben needs to pack his bags and withdraw. I mentioned Gordon Smith's comment. That's interesting. Blake Middleton. Hi, Blake, who's on. He says, cheers from Lake Minnetonka, where there's currently that's up in Minnesota, of course, 5 to 6 inches of new snow on the ground, and it's still coming down hard. And the last Wayzata Yacht Club boat, an S2 7.9, was just pulled out of the lake on Sunday. Well, that's typical. There are some people wait till the last minute. What's wrong, Stingray, with Clouds' green glasses? You need to wear pink rose-colored glasses for a rosy outlook. I mean, Clouds is a character. What a great guy. And obviously a terrific weather man. What was the old song? You don't need a weatherman to know which way the wind blows. Was that Bob Dylan? Who was that? Of course, play on words about the weatherman. Ineos are due to put the rig on shortly to get sailing. Okay, well, we'll see how that goes. And then your favorite logo again. And I won't misquote Julie Aarons. I'm sorry I did, Julie, but you weren't fond of it. A lot of people aren't fond of that logo. I swear to God, Meg could have done a better job when she was in my daughter, Meg, when she was in 4th or 5th grade. Clark Chapin saying, yes, of course, it was Dylan. It was Dylan. Okay, enough on the America's Cup. Let's carry on here. But I now have to ask you the question about the big picture in the America's Cup, because it's now starting to get commented on, not just by those of you on here, the Fozy and myself from time to time. I'm really trying to keep an open mind about all this. I'm not too concerned about the logo. I mean, that's not going to make or break the America. I'm not too concerned about Barcelona per se. I think it's a disaster. I think it's wrong. As you all know, it should be in Auckland. Should have been in Auckland, just like Bermuda should have been here in San Francisco. But that's not going to make or break the Cup. Is the television going to be good? I hope it is. Is the racing going to be close? I hope it is. But will that attract new non-sailors to the event? I doubt it very much. Are we keeping the core audience involved and interested? Because I walk into St. Francis Yacht Club or talk to friends at clubs around the world, and they don't seem to know or care about what's going on. So I ask you, is this Cup correct or croutonic? As David James says, does anybody actually care? And that's the concern. Apropos this article, I'm not going to excerpt the whole thing, but written by a longtime friend and appeared on sailingmagazine.net, Chris Caswell, on earlier this month. And I commend the article to you. Go to sailingmagazine.net and read the entire piece because it's quite interesting. Chris Caswell writing in an article headline, "The America's Cup has moved so far from the glory days, it might as well be on the moon." Chris Caswell. Although I'm fascinated by again, I'm excerpting from a longer and very erudite piece. Although I'm fascinated by cars of all ilk, I have absolutely no interest whatsoever in the lunar moon rover. Yes, it's a vehicle and it has 4 wheels, but it holds no thrall at all. Nice rhyme. I'll probably never see one, let alone drive it or dream about it. It's the same way I feel about the America's Cup these days. The water bug-like craft that skitter around on foils with no spinnakers, no tacking duels, just sheer speed, and I would have added lots of non-human power, just sheer speed, are stored energy, are the moon rovers of sailing, Chris Caswell says. I see no trickle down from the America's Cup. Sailors used to benefit from advances in everything from sail materials to better turning blocks, but I don't see our marinas suddenly filling up with foiled yachts. I'm long past wearing a skin-tight wetsuit, and I'd have to be dipped into liquid neoprene to get into one, though kids sailing optimists have embraced it. This musing was triggered because of this photo that I'm using, of the Alinghi Red Bull Racing. How's that for a yacht name? No more Intrepids or Columbias or okay, that I'm over that. Or Heritages. It has all the appeal of calling it Joe's Plumbing Supply. The Swiss America's Cup Challenger was practicing in Barcelona and on its first day of sailing when it had a major problem. Well, you all know about this. We reported on it. Squall came through. They got the sails down, and the boat fell over. We might have said that it capsized if it was a real boat, but it was more like the SS Alinghi Red Bull Racing had just fainted. And they were towing in after testing. A sudden squall blew through. One of the crew members said the boat was difficult to control and it just tipped over. Chase boats quickly picked up the sailors that had been dumped into the water, but the image of this America's Cup yacht lying helplessly on its side with its foils in the air like a dying cockroach made me realize how far astray the Cup has gone. And so the once proud America's Cup is being hosted in Spain in weird foiling boats so temperamental that they fall over while being towed off the race course. There's one hope for the America's Cup. In studying the new Cup rules, I found Rule 27.1 that requires that the crew, quote, shall all be human beings, unquote. Perhaps sanity will reign again. So wrote Chris Caswell earlier this month in Sailing Magazine, sailingmagazine.net. And there have been other similar articles, Sailing Anarchy by an anarchist, I think it was called David, I don't know the gentleman. But any number of people are replying and writing the same thing. And again, I hope it's not true. I hope this thing really comes off like gangbusters. The competition is great. It's interesting and yada, yada. But a dying cockroach, a lunar rover, some pretty powerful metaphors there, some pretty powerful images, and they're not exactly positive for the pinnacle event in our sport. Is Chris Caswell correct or croutonic, I ask you? James Frederick, new terminology, cockroach racing, Ted Reinhold. That's a lot of you like that, I guess. Even the IMOCAs are moving to a very similar foiling concept. Look at Charal. Stingray, I think, likes this. Tell me, Stingray, if I'm wrong. Ed Worley saying, remember that the AC-40 needs a computer flight system to sail, and that, he says, Ed Worley says, is wrong. The moon rovers of sailing, Blake Middleton liked that reference. Stingray says, I think that with his venue choice done for commercial reasons, yes, will be as big or bigger than any recent one. Even if 90% of the visitors are Barcelona, and that's a lot of traffic and interest, it's also close to Italy, a hotbed of AC passion. Okay, I hope that's true, Stingray, our good friend up in Seattle. Ed Worley saying, the new AC technology is very cool, but the boats are so exotic that sailors will never sail that kind of boats. Croutonic. Ryman down in Cape Town, Ted is saying it will all work out in the end. Clark Chapin, I'd say that the Cup is headed down a blind alley. It might be a long alley, but there's still no exit at the other end. Remember the marching band scene from Animal House. Gordon Smith is optimistic. He's saying the exciting stuff is all ahead of us, as it should be. Well, I hope so, and I'm keeping I'm trying to stay optimistic. Julie Ahrens is saying, it is what it is. It is as it always has been, a technological competition. Yeah, Julie, but it's a little over the top, maybe. What's Julie saying? Well, I lost her comment here. Whether or not people like it or not, Otis, not going to stay. It's not always going to stay. I think she means traditional sailing race. Maybe the future will go back to traditional style racing. Time will tell. Steve Gruber replying to Ed Worley, I agree that most of us will never sail a foiling monohull, but there is a lot of technology that will trickle down. Sails, winches, rigging, ropes, hull and spar, construction, batten engineering. Yeah, I just wonder if it's not just getting completely over the top in terms of cost and complexity, Steve. Gordon Smith, he meaning Steve Caswell is Crutonic. The AC is what it is, agreeing with Julie Ahrens, and such criticism rather ignores the experience and competence of those who are enthusiastically challenging and defending, Gordon Smith says. Luca Craig, watch these yachts in the flesh. Watching these yachts, Luca from Auckland, watching them is very exciting. These boats are amazingly pointless, Graham Sweeney is saying. I hope we get good weather, strong winds for close racing. Jonathan Frank, the airline pilot from Infosi from Texas. Over the top as jumped the shark, Bill Wingrove. Yeah, he's not too keen on this. James Frederick Bland, if you're racing one design, speed doesn't matter. Yeah, I think the speed is not the issue. Anyway, go to the article. Go to sailingmagazine.net. Read Chris's entire piece, and thank you for your comments on today's show number 569. Tuesday, we're about an hour and 11 minutes in. Tuesday, the 29th of November. No Julia over there in her chair, my co-host and Commodore of the Beach Street Yacht Club, rehabbing her broken foot. She should be back here at the Beach Street Yacht Club upstairs in the Commodore's quarters by the end of this week. We certainly hope so, and if so, I think she'll be down here with me next Tuesday. We now have a video from Team Canada. It's only a minute long, but to give a little bit of love to Sail GP, this from Dubai, and a nice recap, mostly visual recap from the Canadian Sail GP team. Have a look.
Just the beginning, mate. This is it.
Good start. We've got all the boats coming in fast. Here we go. Wow, on the money. All the boats on the line there. And who can get on the foils first? Looks like Canada. They're foiling. It's going to be a sprint between these two. Exactly what he wants to do.
Hello.
Robertson, the starting master. Can he lead at Mark 1?
Definitely worth the trip all the way from Canada to Dubai to see this in race 1.
Wow. I thought I clipped the end of that so it didn't end in black, but it does end in black. And here are a couple more points. So we just want to revisit the season championship after Dubai. Australia, Tommy Slingsby leading comfortably over Pete Burling. Then Quentin Delapierre in third. From France, Ben Ainsley with 48 points in fourth. Denmark, Canada, U.S. Jimmy Spithill struggling again this year, down in seventh place. So we'll see how that goes as they move after the holiday break. Move to Singapore the 13th to the 14th of January. Then the KPMG Australian Grand Prix in mid-February, then New Zealand mid-March in Christchurch, not Auckland. I guess it's going to be in Auckland next year, meaning 2024. And then the finale here in San Francisco in early May. The finale here, 6th through 7th of May. The final four, Singapore, Sydney, Christchurch, and San Francisco, Sail GP. Looking forward to, there's a bunch of comments here. Steve Atkins saying, foiling is hot, hot, hot among the young sailors. Let's get behind it. I think he didn't say that, but I'm putting words in his mouth. David James saying the speed is actually counterproductive as it ruins match racing. Stingray, where's the banjo to symbolize the good? Yeah, I was watching the bloody World Cup soccer, and I got caught up in that as well as preparing the show and trying to get cleaned up into hair and makeup. So I forgot to I normally put Julie, you can see her headset hanging underneath her table. I put that up on her chair, and I didn't bring the banjo in. That was just fun for last Tuesday, Stingray. But hopefully this is it. Hopefully she's back here. God forbid I have to do another one by myself. It's a lot more fun to have David James has subbed in nicely for. David's on here watching, and Julie, of course, we think is going to be back. Gordon Smith, I want to give a shout out to Craig Mitchell, who is doing an outstanding job as the ump. Top bloke, tricky job to do. Yes, Craig Mitchell is. And there was a good article about Craig Mitchell on, I saw it somewhere, on Yachts and Yachting, I think. Was that where it was, Gordon Smith? Yachts and Yachting, and maybe on, I think that's where it was. I didn't run it. It's a bit of an evergreen piece. I will run it, if not Friday, next Tuesday. I'll at least excerpt from it because Craig is doing a good job. And remember, they're not umpiring from on the water. They got maybe an observer on the water, but they're actually in Ealing, which is what, 20 miles east of London, or west of London, rather. Out there where the television is, the commentators are there, and the the umpires in a booth in England, while the racing is wherever it is in the world. What other comments? Both New Zealand and USA have been docked 4 points. It skews the season standings. Okay, fair enough, Stingray, but points are points. The obligatory bilge bunnies. I'm not sure what that means, James. J. Frederick, James Bland. Wingrove, yes, Yachts and Yachting, Neil Collingridge is confirming. That's where that article is about Craig Mitchell and the umpiring team. Good article. I'm still ready to fly to SFO. Where did I lost that comment? Blake Middleton, to break Julie out of the jail and get her back to, well, I think she's back, Blake. I think everybody's good wishes and prayers and comments and texts. You need to put a scarf. Yeah, Julie, I should put a scarf over there on her chair. But hopefully she is back on Friday here in the Beach Street Yacht Club. I don't think she'll be here on the show Friday, but hopefully next Tuesday. There once was a man from Ealing. I can't tell the rest, but I quote John Valby. Okay, Steve Gruber. Somebody clean that up. Give us the rest of that quote. Looking ahead, we'll probably do a watch party again on Boxing Day, which is the 26th down under. And it is our Christmas night, so we wrap up our Christmas Day a little early and get on the air in time. Normally 6 o'clock our time for a noon start down in Sydney for the Rolex Sydney to Hobart race. And as a bit of a preview, Rolex has issued a video with the CYCA. Here it is.
A relentless examination of determination and endeavor, evoking the true spirit of sailing.
The Everest of ocean racing.
The 77th edition of the Rolex Sydney Hobart Yacht Race gets underway on Monday, the 26th of December. Organised by the Cruising Yacht Club of Australia in collaboration with the Royal Yacht Club of Tasmania. This legendary event has long transcended the sport, with the Australian nation and beyond coming to a halt to witness the race start. From its very public departure point in Sydney Harbour, for most competitors, this 628 nautical mile challenge takes place far from land and other boats, as the intrepid fleet, comprising over 100 professional and Corinthian crews, sails down the New South Wales coast and across the Bass Strait, before turning into Storm Bay and navigating the sometimes fickle conditions up the Derwent River to Hobart.
Circumstances can decide the winner, and you just might be the last man standing.
For the overall race winner, one of sailing's most famous and coveted prizes awaits. The Tattersall Cup is within reach of any crew displaying the requisite mix of passion, skill and teamwork. The race to finish first and claim line honours sees some of the world's leading 100-foot maxes go head-to-head, with the additional goal of breaking the race record of 33 hours, 15 minutes and 24 seconds, set in 2017. First held in 1945 and supported by Rolex for 20 years, the Rolex Sydney Hobart is a race all sailors aspire to finish, with an enduring appeal that draws back competitors year after year.
Great video, great sponsor, great yacht club, the Cruising Yacht Club of Australia. Great race, the Sydney to Hobart. And tell me if a lot of you like, we've been doing this, I think, now for X many years, 4 or 5 since we've been doing this show, I think 4 or 5 years, we've been doing a watch party on our Christmas night on your Boxing Day down under. And we'll take the feed off of, what is it, Channel 7 or Channel 9 in Australia, and have a watch party and all talk about it. What are we saying here, Graham Sweeney? Oh, so last century. Where's the foils? Only kidding. And there was a tangential. I'm not the only one who makes tangential remarks. Ted Ryman saying, just to change the subject briefly. Yeah, I saw Ted just before we went there. The Ferrari F1 team principal, Mattia Binotto, has resigned. David James saying resigned is a polite way to put it. Yeah, Ferrari stepped on. They've had tough times here of late. Stingray making so somewhat. Julia, get your faith. If she's over there watching this in the convalescent home, someone should start a race called the Rolex Phuket to Bangkok. I think he would pronounce those names differently. Maybe there'll be a protest inside Sydney Harbor. Remember when Clark Chapin and Dick Enerson, we had that mock protest hearing? You all, that must have been, 4 or 5 years ago, wasn't it, Clark? Clark served as one of the presenters. Dick Enerson served as the other. You all served as the jury and took the decision, which then was almost exactly what the jury decided. I think their penalty was somewhat more severe than yours. Always love the watch party, Mary Jude Szymanski says. Finger wag, yeah, indeed. Although I can tell you now that I have, I'll go back to it in a sec, but I do have a text about there once was a young woman from Ealing, but I digress. A couple other points about Sydney to Hobart. Wild Oats 11, WOXY, is back in action for 2022. They took a couple years off, the COVID years. And yeah, we need an emoji, Steve Grover says, for a finger wag. I could push a button and make that pop up here. Back in action for 2022, this via Sailing Anarchy, a rare sight, and this is a photo from about a week ago. A rare sight in Sydney, maybe 2 weeks ago now. 2 Reichel Pugh Wild Oats offshore racer side by side like a humpback whale and her calf. Actually, the mother is smaller than the child. Wild Oats 10 there on the right. The 66-foot Wild Oats was launched in 2004 for an Admirals Cup campaign. It's raced in the Sydney Hobart as well. The all-conquering 100-foot Super Maxi Wild Oats 11, which has been much modified, was launched just a year later in 2005. So she's back in action and will be racing. That is WOXY Wild Oats 11. The Oatley family continues to keep both yachts in immaculate condition, and their distinctive silver and red livery hasn't changed for 18 years. The big boat is back in the water after an extended COVID hiatus and will compete for line honors in next month's Sydney to Hobart against Blackjack, Law Connect, and Andu Comanche. Now, one other piece of news is that the defending champ, in fact, the winner of the last 3 of the 4, is apparently not going to race. That is Matt Allen's TP52 Ichiban. The fleet of 52-foot Grand Prix racing yachts are expected to once again challenge for overall honors, but Matt Allen's Boateen 52 Ichiban, which won 3 of the last 4, will not be doing the race this year. The highly competitive group of 52-foot boats in this year's race features international entrants Caro and Warrior One, as well as the local Celestial, Guaylo, Quest, 2-time overall winner as Quest in balance, and Zen. So I checked in with a couple of our Sydney early this morning. They were, I say, up and at 'em, but Pricey's checking around for me, as are others. David doesn't really know the answer why Ichiban Matt Allen, winner of the 3 of the last 4, is not racing. Maybe some of you do know why he is not racing, or maybe he's just not going to sail that boat and he's going to sail some other, because apparently one hears Ichiban has been sold to somebody offshore. And maybe the new offshore owner will race Ichiban in the Sydney to Hobart. We'll keep you posted. We'll plan then to do the watch party on our Christmas night on your Boxing Day, the 26th of December, for the start of the Sydney to Hobart yacht race. That brings us up a couple other comments. Ichiban. Did I say Ichiban? James Frederick Bland. Ichiban. Massive fallout from Ichiban crew from the protests of last year. Jody Shields is saying, yes, the Ichiban. Warrior One, due for a win. Steve Atkins saying, trivia question on which yacht did Ellison almost lose his life during the Sydney to Hobart in what year, and who was that skipper who he says saved his life? I know the answer to that. We'll see if any others of you do. Ichiban, J. Frederick Blum. Bill Wingrove, Waxy does not seem to have as good since they performed the mods on her. Well, they've done some more. We'll see if she goes better this time. Ken Saban up in Toledo, Ohio says, enjoy your evening, sailors. Got to go to work. Jody Shields has Larry's yacht with Sayonara. Yes. What year? Yep. Dicko was driving. And Larry claims Dicko saved his life. I think it was probably the boat builder, Itchy Bub. Ted Ryman is saying. Oh, dear, oh, dear. Yeah, Dicko was driving. I'm not sure Dicko was in that great a shape either. It was the 98 Sydney to Hobart, and they won that race. They won the race. It was 98, I think, Stingray, you'll find. On board Sayonara, and I think Mark Turner, the esteemed boat builder from New Zealand who built that boat, and yeah, Stingray's got it now, and also was the short team chief and chief builder for any number of our campaigns. Well, when I joined Larry in 2003, and still is running now, of course, running the short team for Sail GP and building those boats. So that's the answer to that trivia question from Stingray about Larry in the 98 Sydney to Hobart. That brings us to the D block. And we have some nice submissions here. For Whiskey Tango Foxtrot, first one's a sailing funny. He was a keen yachtsman and knew all the appropriate nautical terms as the big tsunami wave is coming. Oh, Scheiße, as you would say in German. Scheiße. Thanks, Ed Worley. You sent that one in. I think that was. And I was lonely until I glued a coffee cup onto my car. Now everybody waves at me. Isn't that the truth? You go down the street with something on top of your car, and, oh, they're tooting at you, or you've got some problem somewhere. And you think that people are just being nice. That came from Stingray. In fact, that came this morning. And then here's a group of old sailors. I don't know if they're 69 or older. One says, "It's windy." The next says, "No, it's Thursday." And then the third guy on the right says, "Me too. Let's get some beers." That's obviously Jody Shields about 60 years from now on the right. That's probably me in the middle who can't hear, and who knows who said it's windy. That's probably Ted Ryman. It's windy. I don't know who sent that. In fact, I think a couple of you sent that, so I didn't give anybody credit for that one. That's we're an hour and 28 minutes in. Time to wrap this one up. We're to the finish line. And if you will, as Julia, if she were here, hopefully a week from today, she would say, please like, follow, and share. And we remind you that comments are welcome too, even in replay. If you are watching in replay, again, today's show, as always, brought to you, sponsored by our patrons. Support us, please, on Patreon. I just got the bill for Restream.io for another year. I'm going to keep that going, Stingray. That allows us to co-stream at the same time to not only to YouTube, but to two Facebook pages, mine and the Sailing Illustrated Facebook page. And I'm also streaming it to my Twitter page. And soon we will be streaming it to our LinkedIn, my personal LinkedIn page. And, you know, I could save a couple $100 a year and not do that, just stream it to one page. But you all seen, some of you like to watch YouTube, some of you like Facebook. And we also do use it for Gulf Cup and one or two other things, so I'll probably keep it going. Comments? Hello, Cedric Lorch. Nice to see you on. Long time. I love the cup atop the car. I'd do that for sure. J. Frederick Bland, I can identify with a remark. I'm not sure which remark. Bill Wingrove saying Mark Turner, yeah, the builder Mark Turner, Kiwi Mark Turner, not British Mark Turner, was going around marking all the D-lambs around the boat. Larry Ellison was freaked out. Yeah, well, everybody on the boat was. Gordon Smith, thanks to you all. Hugs to Julia for the weekend. Thank you for another good show. Tier DeYoung, thank you, Tier. Are you in California or you're in the old country? Or Ken Glidewell replying to Stingray. Follow-on question, does Sayonara still exist? There's a good question. And another cool show goes by, alcohol wasn't mentioned once. Well, I'm not quite sure it's not quite true, but I think this is not, somebody likes to say, a alcohol show with a sailing habit. No, we're not. We're a sailing show, obviously. No, Sayonara does not exist. It has been carved up because Larry didn't want anybody else to sail it. Any final comments? I'd normally go to Julia and ask her, with that up there in the overhead, in the PIP, which stands for Picture in Picture. And if there are no other comments, awesome afternoon spent with the Fozy. Thank you, Jonathan. Frank Sonera was Sayonara. Bill Wingrove has said cut up after AC-34. That is true. With a chainsaw. Some bits and pieces of it around. Fastest 90-minute show in sailing. Good show. Thank you, Steve Atkins. Thanks to all of you. We hope you have a great rest of your week, wherever in the world you are. Hope to see you on Friday. In the meantime, sail fast, sail safe, and have fun. Ciao for now.